You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report, episode number 206.3. Grant Shouse reacts to IU being left out of the NCAA Tournament.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Grant, the Hoosiers have been left out of the NCAA Tournament. Your thoughts?
I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised. Is the best way I can describe it. I think everybody's eyes were on Dayton and who was going to be in the play-in. I mean, there was no other way Indiana was going to get in as an at-large team that didn't have to play at Dayton. There was no way. And when North Carolina and Texas came, or Xavier and Texas came up, that ended the Mike Woodson era right there. Indiana has already announced they will not be participating in any postseason activities. They will not be in the NIT. They will not be in the college basketball crown. The season has ended, and it kind of makes you wonder maybe if maybe the administration at Indiana met with the coaches and team privately and maybe asked, do we even want to play in the tournament, or are we good with being done? And you never know. I mean, who wouldn't want to play in March Madness, right? But
Right.
And then they relay that back to the selection committee. But even still, they may not have just flat out not made the tournament. This is I think the biggest head scratcher, and I'm a little disappointed. Honestly, would have loved to see them in Dayton. That is the best arena in college basketball. That is, in my opinion, that's one of the best arena. That is the best arena for that event. The fact North Carolina got in, believe it or not, people are saying that is surprising. That's not that surprising to me. Their athletic director is the selection chairman committee, or the selection chairman. He's the chairman for the selection committee. That's what I was going to say. When they meet to discuss North Carolina, he cannot be in the room. He has to leave the room. But the thing is if those people meet without him in the room and decide that, talk about North Carolina and they don't put them in, you start to wonder, does that really affect the relationship between these people and the athletic director? Maybe, maybe not. He doesn't have a say in that. So the people that want to be upset and complain that North Carolina made it over Indiana played themselves into this position. They did not play they did not play well at times this year. They had that losing streak in January. They played bad. They were really one of the worst teams in the Big Ten. This was a team with a lot of promise. And so there's no reason to feel bad because you played yourself into this and you certainly coached yourself into it. So
is there any amount of relief that it's over?
Oh, no question. I think there's relief for some guys. Believe it or not, I think the biggest relief is from the head coach. I think the head coach is incredibly relieved that it is over. Now you officially turn to the search season. You officially turn to who are you going to hire who are you going to hire as your next basketball coach? This is the question we've now been asking for over a month. It feels like we've been asking it for a long time. Now I think the administration can focus on that. These guys I think some of them are probably okay with it. Apparently some of them were getting death threats. Not playing another game means you don't get any death threats. Maybe those guys will take it. I don't know. I would have liked to have seen them in just because of what they did there down the stretch of the year. Beating Purdue at home, getting that win against Ohio State, who was another bubble team, winning at Michigan State. Those are quality. Those, in my opinion, are quality wins. But to the committee, they must have not had enough. That's why in retrospect, losing by 4 at home against UCLA hurts you. That's why losing The way they did at Wisconsin hurts him. Losing at Purdue, that killed him. Losing at home against Maryland, that was the straw that broke the camel's back on this head coach. Losing at home to Maryland was definitely a killer. And now you start to look back at some of those losses that they had, like those close games, like I just mentioned with UCLA and Maryland and all that. They come out on the correct side of things. They probably see their name pop up on that bracket today. Actually, there's no question they see their name pop up on that bracket today. Um,
And
when
if they
you,
hold on against either one late against Oregon, when they led both those games late in the game, that's
yeah,
two more. But you could definitely make an argument that IU deserved to be in. I think that when you look at the other teams, I think they did. But
for sure.
when there are 34 at large bids, you just can't complain when it comes out, because if you're clearly one of the best 25 to 30, you're going to get in. So they weren't.
Exactly.
They weren't. So they played with the fire and they got burnt.
Exactly. That's a good analogy. That's a good way to put it. The thing is that Indiana had those opportunities, like you said. Just they didn't come out on the correct end of things. And I don't know if that falls on those kids, if that falls on the coach. When you look back at this season, this is going to be remembered as one of the most disappointing seasons in a long, long time. Indiana's had some rough go arounds since Bob Knight was fired. Some rough ones, some good ones. Don't get me wrong. They had a really good one in the second year under Mike Woodson. They've had some really good years with Tom Crean. But this, to me, is one of the most disappointing, one of the most embarrassing. Indiana had the best roster out of the transfer portal, the best portal haul, one of the best recruiting classes this season. And it looked like Mike Woodson really had this team where we could be talking about them like they're a St. John's, like they're a 2 seed or a 3 seed. That just didn't happen this year. When you play close games at home to Winthrop, come on. Winthrop didn't make the tournament. Winthrop at the time, it was like, okay, Winthrop hung around, but you're going to see their name on selection Sunday. I remember thinking that. And then obviously we didn't today. And when you play close games like that against those cupcakes, those bye games, that kind of is setting you up for failure going into the conference season, going into the Big Ten season. And just losing, what was it, 7 out of 8 at one point, that just sets you're just set up for failure on this day, on Selection Sunday. And with the roster they had, like with Mbako and Balo out of the portal and Rice and Leal coming back and Galloway and getting Luke Goody and having other guys back, it took, and Renew, getting Malik Renew back, getting all these guys back, it like I said, it really looked like Indiana was going to be a phenomenal team this season, but that just didn't happen, and it's disappointing for sure. But hopefully, with the new administration and with the new coach, that it's going to get changed and it's going to get flipped around, and if
Hopefully
they
it
can
leads
get
to
enough.
something great.
Exactly. If the new coach can get another roster like this one, this was a talented this roster was really talented this year, Greg. It really was. It had so much potential, but it just couldn't win games down the stretch, couldn't close out games, made bad decisions, played themselves out of the NCAA tournament. And so hopefully with a new coach, they can get something this talented and maybe be on the correct side of things. Maybe next year, maybe in a few years. You never know. That's where Indiana's focus is going to go now, is going to get a new head coach.
All right, we will talk about that more on Monday with the IU report, of course. That'll be our number one topic. We will also talk
Good.
a little baseball, a little softball, and you and I are going to be talking a lot of high school basketball this week, so you and I are going to be talking often. But one
Yeah.
last thing before we
Good.
go, I just want to say how disappointing it is. even as a Purdue fan, that Purdue is the only team from Indiana in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, that's not good. That should be a wake up call to these other big schools that like Indiana and Butler and Notre Dame that they got to get it figured out. I mean,
Oh,
Thad Matta will return to Butler next season. We know Mike Woodson's out, and Notre Dame's going to give Micah Shrewsbury more time. But
sure.
that is embarrassing. You are the basketball state in terms of high school, and it has transitioned over into the college game, and you can only get one team into
In
the
the
NCAA tournament. That's pathetic.
in the 80s and 90s, 4 or 5 were normal, 6 a couple of years.
Yeah.
Evansville was a regular, Ball State was a regular, Valpo was
Hmm.
in the 90s, of course.
Right.
Ball State, man, so disappointing that you keep thinking that they're getting the talent to compete and they just don't. Maybe Michael Lewis will get the job done. Let's hope, but
I,
we'd
I,
really
I
love to see the schools across Indiana doing a little better.
I hope Ball State can turn it around because I enjoy all levels of basketball, but honestly, one of my favorites is the mid-major level. And
Absolutely.
Ball State is obviously the closest mid-major program to us. So
Yeah.
I love going to games there. I love Worthen Arena. I don't know what it is. I
Great
love
place.
yeah, I love the atmosphere. It's big in there. It can get really loud at times. I really have wanted to see Michael Lewis, who of course is a former Indiana player, have success, and honestly, they just haven't had that yet. They have struggled, and I don't know how much time they'll give Michael Lewis. I don't know if they'll give him a year, 2 years, but if things don't start going right here soon, it may be time to go find another guy that could fix it there in Muncie. But
Where
this is
is Rick?
we're talking IU, but
Yeah.
I'm just giving my 2 cents on that.
Where is Rick Majerus when you need him? All right.
Rest in peace.
That's right. He of
One
course
of the
is the one.
best.
He of course is the one who turned Ball State into a great program in the '80s. So thank you
Oh
so
yeah.
much, Grant, for your time. Always appreciate. Oh, I was telling the listeners, not you, of course. I know you knew that.
Oh,
You know it all.
you
So
know I know.
I know you know. I was telling the listeners that uh, in case a lot of people probably a little younger than I am because he probably left when I was 14 or 15 from Ball State,
Yeah.
and Rick Hunsaker was also a very good coach, and Ray McCollum, of course. All three had winning teams at Ball State. But thank you so much, Grant. We'll talk a lot this weekend. Appreciate your time as always.
Yep. Thanks, Greg. This is the best week in sports. It's going to be a good one.
It is going to be a good one, Susie. It's one of our favorite weeks of the year. Perfect week for spring break for me.
Yeah, gonna fill out some brackets.
Right now. Thank you so much to Grant for joining the Central Indiana Sports Report. Always enjoy him sharing his opinion with the Central Indiana Sports Report listeners. If you would like to see us continue to grow and thrive, please do us a huge favor and share these episodes with your friends and family. We appreciate it as always. How long should I wait before I do the?
I'd give it about 5.
But what if I wanted to wait a little longer than that?
I think that's excessive. But do what you want to do.
I guess. Who you think's gonna win? Did you get it?
I don't know. I
You
haven't.
haven't even looked at it yet.
No, I am just in the dark this year.
Yeah, me too. But I gotta say, I saw Houston the other night. Ooh. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.